7 a.m. Saturday. A blacked-out BMW slams through my new fence. Wood everywhere. Tires screech. Booze stench hits hard. Out stumbles Bryce, 22, entitled, reeking like cheap whiskey. Before I react, his mom rolls up. Patricia Thornfield, HOA queen. She struts to the cops, flashes her card, and snaps.
This guy pays for it all. My son's car, the fence, everything. HOA rules.
I'm stunned, clutching a fake report blaming me for her son's DUI mess. 3 weekends of work, destroyed. Bryce smirks. Patricia grins like she owns the street. She turns, smug as hell. Huge mistake. Seconds later, tow truck sirens. Flatbed hooks Bryce's BMW and hauls it away, right in front of her shocked face. From victory to horror in a blink. That was just the start of her nightmare week. What would you do to this entitled duo? Drop your ideas below. Let's expose HOA bullies. Where you watching from? Tag a Karen victim. My name's Garrett Holloway. 52 years old, recently divorced electrician who thought buying his first house was going to be his comeback story. Turns out it was more like walking into a war zone. 2 years of 60-hour weeks, living off gas station coffee and determination, all to escape that studio apartment that smelled like the previous tenant's chain-smoking habit. Finally saved enough for a down payment on a 1970s ranch in Willowbrook Heights. Nothing fancy, but mine. I attacked that house like a man possessed. Navy blue shutters that took 3 coats to cover the peeling beige. Tomato plants arranged in military straight rows. Every Saturday morning, same ritual. Black coffee on the back patio, listening to the crunch of autumn leaves under my work boots, breathing in that crisp October air mixed with the sweet scent of neighbor barbecues. But my masterpiece? That white picket fence. 3 solid weekends, every post perfectly aligned, every board cut to exact specifications. We're not just moving snow, Garrett, he'd say, breath visible in the frigid air. We're keeping community alive. After my divorce last year, this business became my lifeline. 2 kids to support. Emma's 16 and fierce as a blizzard. Tyler's 14 and already learning to operate the smaller equipment. We live in the same modest ranch house on Pinewood Circle that Grandpa bought in 1974. Nothing fancy, but it's paid for and it's ours. The neighborhood used to reflect those values. Working families, teachers, small business owners who knew your name and appreciated honest work. People who'd wave from warm windows at 5 a.m., bring hot soup during 18-hour storm shifts, actually understand that snow removal isn't glamorous, but it's essential. But things changed. Half the houses now belong to tech executives and California transplants who see property values where I see neighbors. They want the service, but not the reminder that blue-collar work makes their comfortable lives possible. Enter Vivian Ashworth. 52, retired tech executive, drives a spotless white Tesla like it's a statement piece. Moved here 3 years ago from some gated community outside San Francisco, immediately started reshaping the neighborhood to match her vision of suburban perfection. HOA board member within 6 months, president within 12 months. She lives exactly 4 houses down from me, and in 3 years, she's never once acknowledged my existence. Not a wave, not a nod, certainly not gratitude when her precious driveway gets cleared before dawn so she can make hot yoga class. But she notices everything else with laser precision. The trouble started after a monster February storm. 2 feet of powder overnight, winds howling like banshees, temperature dropping to -15. County courthouse basement smells like dust, disappointment, and decades of buried secrets. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead while I flipped through HOA and corporation papers dating back 25 years. The scratch of pencil on legal pad as I documented every suspicious transaction. And holy hell, what I found. Patricia hadn't just bent the rules, she'd snapped them in half. Maintenance contracts to her brother-in-law's company charging triple market rate. Emergency repairs, that never happened. Community fund money disappearing into mysterious accounts right before Patricia's kitchen renovation. 25 years of systematic theft, hidden behind HOA letterhead and legal jargon. Every monthly payment from 200 homes funneled into the Thornfield family piggy bank. She'd turned our neighborhood into her personal ATM. The bitter taste of black courthouse coffee mixed with pure rage. Vivian's handwritten note made it personal. Mr. Holbrook, maintaining neighborhood aesthetics is everyone's responsibility. Please ensure future compliance to preserve property values for all residents. Property values. Community standards, aesthetic responsibility. Translation: people like you don't belong in our new suburban paradise. I paid the $50, figuring maybe she needed one power trip to feel important. That was my first mistake. You don't feed entitled bullies, you document their behavior and prepare for war. Because Vivian Ashworth had no idea who she'd just declared war against. 2 weeks later, the second envelope arrived like a declaration of war. Same violation, but the fine had doubled to $100. Vivian's note was shorter, icier. Second violation: relocate commercial equipment immediately or face escalating penalties. Escalating penalties. Patricia had attached the police report number and Officer Martinez's signature like battle trophies. I sat on my back patio watching that letter flutter in the morning breeze while my coffee turned cold. The audacity was breathtaking, but something my divorce lawyer once told me echoed in my head. In disputes involving property damage, the burden of proof lies with whoever's claiming damages. Smart woman. Too bad she cost me $3,000 to learn that lesson. Time for some old-fashioned detective work. I grabbed my measuring tape and camera, boots crunching through the scattered fence debris still littering my driveway. BMW tire marks told the real story. Bryce had been driving completely on my side of Maple Court, wrong side of the road, probably texting while hammered. My fence sat exactly 18 inches inside the property line, measured 3 times during construction because HOA violations aren't cheap. The sharp October wind carried the scent of burning leaves from someone's backyard pile, mixing with my growing determination. Every measurement screamed the same truth. This wasn't my fault, it was Bryce's drunk driving circus. Then Mrs. Monroe mentioned her Ring doorbell system. We huddled in her kitchen over jasmine tea while the footage loaded, steam fogging her glasses as she narrated. That boy drives like maniac every weekend. I keep meaning to report him, but you know how Patricia gets when people complain about precious Bryce. The video was beautiful. Crystal clear shot of Bryce pinballing down the street, cell phone in his left hand, music thumping loud enough to rattle windows. Timestamp: 7:23 a.m., completely destroying Patricia's bullshit claim about early morning fog. Arizona in October is about as foggy as the surface of Mars. Armed with evidence, I filed my counterattack. Police complaint with video attachment, formal dispute letter to every board member, photos proving fence compliance with all regulations. My printer hummed like a contented cat as documentation piled up. 30 years of electrical work teaches you that paperwork beats politics every time. But Patricia doesn't stay on defense long. My phone rang that evening while I was grilling a burger. Officer Martinez's voice barely above a whisper. Garrett, I shouldn't be telling you this, but there's been pressure from certain community leaders about how I write reports. Patricia throws that Police Benevolent Fund barbecue every year, donates equipment to the station. Look, if you can prove your case independently, I'll amend my original report, but I need bulletproof evidence. The pieces clicked together. Patricia hadn't just corrupted the HOA, she'd bought herself a pocket cop. But even corrupt systems have cracks, and Martinez had just shown me one. 2 days later, emergency HOA board meeting, agenda reading, unsafe property modifications and owner liability. Translation: crush Garrett before this gets out of hand. The meeting room reeked of stale coffee and Patricia's signature perfume, something expensive that probably cost more than my monthly utility bill. She conducted the proceedings like a prosecutor in a murder trial, acrylic nails tapping against the conference table, while board members bobbed their heads like dashboard ornaments. Mr. Kowalski, bless his heart, actually dozed off during Patricia's 20-minute sermon about community standards and fiscal responsibility. Even Patricia's own allies found her boring. The vote was pure theater, 3-2 to fine me $500 for unapproved fence positioning. They even manufactured a brand new rule requiring boundary structure re-inspections, retroactively making my perfectly legal fence non-compliant. I watched Patricia's satisfied smirk as she gavelled the meeting closed, that metallic taste of injustice coating my tongue. The scratch of pens recording their bogus fine, the shuffle of papers as they made it all official. Complete Kangaroo court, orchestrated with military precision. But sitting there in that stuffy room, watching Patricia bask in her little victory, something crystallized for me. This wasn't about $800 in fence damage, this was about 25 years of systematic intimidation. Patricia had been running the same playbook on every resident who dared challenge her authority. She'd just shown me her entire strategy. Manufactured violations, rubber stamp votes, legal intimidation through official channels. Patricia thought she'd checkmated me in 3 moves. What she didn't realize was that I'd been studying her weaknesses. Every bully makes the same mistake. They assume their victims stay victims forever. Time to stop playing defense and start gathering real intelligence. Because if Patricia wanted to escalate this into personal warfare, she was about to learn that some enemies fight back twice as hard. The taste of battle was bitter, but intoxicating. Game on, Patricia. Patricia's revenge letter arrived with final notice stamped in blood-red ink. $4,100 total. She'd added late fees and administrative costs like some suburban loan shark. But the real sucker punch? A copy sent to my mortgage company claiming ongoing property violations. She wasn't just coming for my wallet anymore. She was targeting my house itself. The morning air carried the acrid smell of someone's leaf fire, matching my burning rage as I realized Patricia's game plan. Financial strangulation until I either paid up or moved out. Classic bully tactics, refined over decades of practice. Time to see just how deep her corruption rabbit hole went. County courthouse basement became my new office. Fluorescent lights humming overhead, musty smell of ancient paperwork filling my lungs as I excavated HOA records dating back to Patricia's first term. The rough texture of photocopied documents told a story that made my fence problems look like parking tickets. 25 years of systematic theft hidden behind municipal jargon and legal letterhead. Every maintenance contract flowed to Patricia's relatives. Brother-in-law Derek's management company charging triple market rates, husband's construction firm handling every emergency repair, even daughter's mysterious $87,000 community scholarship from neighborhood funds. The scratch of my pen documenting transactions, the bitter taste of courthouse coffee mixing with pure outrage. Patricia hadn't just bent rules, she'd built a family business model around stealing from neighbors. But financial records meant nothing without witnesses willing to talk. Door-to-door conversations revealed the scope of Patricia's reign of terror. Mrs. Monroe described similar incidents. Board member's son damaged her mailbox 2 years back. Somehow she ended up paying for community beautification. Mr. Kowalski confessed to rubber stamping votes against residents under Patricia's pressure. The pattern was surgical precision. Target newcomers, people without connections, anyone who couldn't fight back effectively, people exactly like me. Then fate handed me a nuclear weapon disguised as boring paperwork. While organizing my divorce files, yeah, I keep everything now, I stumbled across something my attorney had mentioned about HOA governance. Back then, she'd explained how community associations operate under state oversight, including mandatory annual audits to prevent exactly the kind of theft I was documenting. Curious, I cross-referenced Patricia's financial reports with state requirements. Holy shit. She'd skipped mandatory audits for 4 consecutive years. The penalty? Automatic board dissolution and emergency elections. Any resident could trigger the process with 25 signatures. Patricia's impenetrable kingdom suddenly had a massive crack in its foundation. But while I was building my case, Patricia escalated to psychological warfare. Surprise inspection hit while I was at work. Violations multiplied like cancer. Grass too short, garden gnome seasonally inappropriate, house numbers wrong font according to some regulation buried on page 47 of their handbook. Total fines now exceeded $2,000, with bright orange notices plastered across my front door for maximum neighborhood humiliation. The metallic taste of injustice coated my tongue as I counted violation slips. Patricia was trying to break me financially and socially, hoping I'd crack under pressure like every other resident she'd crushed. Then Precious Bryce decided to make things personal. 2 a.m. Tuesday, security cameras caught him spray painting my mailbox with artistic phrases like loser and other creative expressions. Called 911 immediately, 5-minute drive from the police station, 45-minute response time. Convenient. Officer Martinez arrived looking genuinely uncomfortable, especially when I showed him crystal clear footage of Bryce's vandalism spree, the kid's face, license plate, everything in HD detail. Look, Garrett, Martinez said quietly, maybe we handle this neighborhood style. Sometimes official reports make these situations worse. The subtext hit like a brick. Patricia owned more than just HOA meetings. Her influence reached into law enforcement, municipal contracts, probably half the local power structure. But Martinez's nervousness revealed something crucial. Even corrupt officials get squeamish when evidence piles up. Distant sound of Bryce's BMW roaring through quiet streets, celebrating his latest act of rebellion. The entitled little prince thought mommy's connections made him bulletproof. Wrong calculation, kiddo. Dead wrong. Because while Patricia was playing neighborhood dictator with violation notices and intimidation, I was discovering something beautiful. Her greatest strength was also her fatal weakness. 25 years of total control meant 25 years of documented decisions with her signature on everything. No plausible deniability when you're the only decision maker. No shared blame when every contract bears your approval. No escape hatch when state investigators start asking questions about missing millions. Patricia had built her empire on fear, assuming residents would always choose submission over confrontation. But she'd never faced someone who'd already lost everything once and survived. The taste of incoming victory was metallic and intoxicating. Let her escalate all she wanted. Every move created more evidence, more witnesses, more documentation of systematic corruption. Time to start weaving the rope she'd hang herself with. And trust me, I was about to become an expert rope maker. Patricia detonated her nuclear option the following week. Certified letter from Thornfield and Associates Legal Services, her cousin's firm, naturally, demanding $6,700 including collection fees and expert legal consultation. 72-hour deadline before foreclosure proceedings. But private extortion wasn't enough anymore. Patricia wanted a public execution. Our neighborhood Facebook group exploded with her manifesto about problem residents destroying community values. My alleged violations went viral, shared without permission alongside Patricia's commentary about declining standards and residents who clearly don't belong in our established neighborhood. The autumn rain drummed against my windows while I watched neighbors choose sides in real time. Patricia's digital lynch mob emerged from suburbia's shadows, commenting about my obvious disrespect and suggesting I'd be much happier in a less regulated community. But Patricia made one crucial mistake. She underestimated my ex-wife's parting gift. During our divorce, my attorney had drilled into me the importance of documenting everything. Every text, email, financial transaction. Digital evidence wins cases, she'd said while billing me $300 an hour for that wisdom. So I started screenshotting Patricia's entire online campaign. Mrs. Monroe's IT-savvy daughter helped trace IP addresses, confirming most supportive comments originated from Patricia's home office. Even her social media reputation was manufactured. Meanwhile, my door-to-door audit petition revealed Patricia's true approval ratings. 25 signatures became 40, then 60. Neighbors whispered stories they'd never shared publicly. Manufactured violations, intimidated relatives, financial pressure campaigns targeting anyone who questioned the Queen, the crinkle of petition papers mixed with hushed front porch conversations. That familiar suburban smell of fear when people asked if their names would stay confidential. Patricia had ruled through terror so long, most residents assumed resistance was impossible. They were wrong. Then I stumbled across something that made my electrical engineering brain start calculating federal prison sentences. Cross-referencing Patricia's published financial statements with original HOA development contracts, the numbers didn't just fail to add up, they screamed fraud. Our Community Reserve Fund, established in 1987 with mandatory contributions from every home sale, should contain approximately $8.7 million after decades of compound growth. Patricia's books showed $127,000. Missing funds, $8.5 million. The taste of discovery mixed with bitter courthouse coffee as I realized Patricia hadn't just stolen from current residents. She'd been systematically looting a trust fund meant to maintain our community for generations. But Patricia wasn't waiting for audits or investigations. Emergency board meetings scheduled for 2 p.m. Tuesday, when working residents couldn't attend, to change bylaws requiring 75% approval for financial reviews instead of simple majority. The meeting notice arrived 24 hours early, violating their own 72-hour requirement. Even Patricia's desperate moves broke her precious rules. I alerted every petition signer, contacted local reporters, filed state complaints. The dominoes were lined up perfectly. Then Patricia dropped her nuclear option. Restraining order filed by cousin's law firm, claiming I was harassing board members and creating community disturbance through my obsessive investigation behavior. Judge granted temporary protection based on Patricia's sworn testimony, legally prohibiting me from attending HOA meetings or contacting board members. The beautiful irony? I was now forbidden from attending meetings about my own violations. Standing outside that courthouse, reading official judicial letterhead banning me from my own neighborhood meetings, something crystallized. Patricia had just created a federal paper trail documenting witness intimidation and obstruction of justice. Every legal move she made now became evidence for prosecutors. But the real game changer came from suburbia's least likely source. Mr. Kowalski intercepted me at the mailbox Thursday morning, looking around nervously before speaking. "Garrett, we need to talk. There's something you don't know about me." Turns out our sleepy board member was retired IRS, Criminal Investigation Division, 27 years investigating financial crimes before moving to Willowbrook Heights for peaceful retirement. "Been watching Patricia operate for 15 years, he whispered, documenting everything because I knew someday someone would have guts to fight back. Got copies of records she thinks are destroyed, recordings of her bragging about fooling stupid neighbors, proof she's been claiming tax-exempt status while running personal businesses through HOA accounts." The morning air suddenly felt electric. Kowalski hadn't been sleeping during board meetings. He'd been gathering evidence. "But here's the urgent part," he continued. "Spotted moving trucks at Derek's management office yesterday. Patricia's liquidating assets, probably planning to disappear before audit results surface. Flight risk changes everything in federal investigations. What started as local corruption becomes obstruction of justice, money laundering, potentially RICO charges if family conspiracy proves out. The smell of victory mixed with fresh suburban morning air. Patricia had spent decades perfecting her crime empire, but criminals always make the same mistake. They get desperate when cornered and start making bigger, more traceable moves. Time to activate the trap she'd built herself. That restraining order kept me awake all night, gnawing at my brain like a loose electrical connection. Something about Patricia's desperation felt off. Why risk involving courts unless she was protecting something bigger than HOA corruption? At 6 a.m., I found myself back in the courthouse basement, surrounded by the familiar smell of moldering paperwork and industrial disinfectant. The fluorescent lights hummed their mechanical lullaby while I rifled through boxes marked Development Contracts 1980 to 1990. That's when I found the document that would destroy Patricia's empire, hidden in a filing cabinet that probably hadn't been opened since Reagan was president. I discovered the original Willowbrook Heights development agreement. My hands trembled as I read Section 47B, a clause that made my electrician's heart sing with its elegant simplicity. If the Homeowners Association failed to maintain community standards or committed financial malfeasance, property management would automatically revert to county oversight. Not just supervision, complete dissolution, with county authority to auction management rights to the highest qualified bidder. Patricia had been violating both conditions for 25 years. But the real nuclear bomb was buried in the financial appendix, written in language so boring it could cure insomnia. The original developer had established a $2.3 million community infrastructure fund designed to grow through interest and mandatory contributions from every property sale over 4 decades. Conservative calculations showed that funds should contain approximately $8.7 million today. Patricia's books claimed $127,000, the metallic taste of victory mixed with stale coffee as I photographed every page. Missing funds, $8.5 million, stolen systematically over decades while Patricia lectured neighbors about fiscal responsibility. But here's where my divorce experience paid dividends. I'd learned to follow money trails during asset discovery. Tracing Patricia's family contracts through municipal records revealed the scope of organized theft that would make the mafia jealous. Husband's construction company, $3.2 million in emergency repairs with no permits filed. Brother-in-law Derek's management firm, inflated fees totaling $2.1 million over 15 years. Even precious daughter's college education was funded by a $187,000 community scholarship never advertised to other families. The Thornfield crime family had built their entire lifestyle stealing from neighbors who trusted them with community funds. The rough texture of decades-old contracts under my fingertips told a story of systematic fraud that would make federal prosecutors weep with joy. Patricia's HOA claimed nonprofit tax-exempt status while operating as a family business. That's not just theft, that's federal tax evasion with RICO implications. And here's the beautiful irony. Patricia's obsessive control had created perfect evidence against herself. Every fraudulent contract bore her signature, every inflated payment required her approval, every stolen dollar could be traced directly to decisions she made as sole authority. 25 years of absolute power meant 25 years of absolute liability. But Section 47B was the real masterpiece, a nuclear trigger requiring only one formal complaint with documented evidence to activate automatic county review within 30 days. Patricia's restraining order had just created additional evidence of witness intimidation, accelerating any federal investigation. Walking out of that courthouse basement, arms full of Patricia's death warrant disguised as municipal paperwork, I couldn't help but smile. The morning air tasted like freedom mixed with impending justice. Patricia thought she'd silenced me with legal intimidation, but she'd actually provided the final piece of evidence prosecutors needed. Every desperate move she made now created additional charges: obstruction, witness tampering, conspiracy. The woman who'd spent decades terrorizing neighbors through manufactured violations and financial pressure was about to discover what real legal consequences felt like. Time to activate the trap Patricia had unknowingly built around herself. County oversight, federal investigation, asset forfeiture, her perfect crime was about to become her perfect downfall. Game over, Patricia. Game over. My spare bedroom transformed into mission control overnight. Wall maps showing every HOA property, financial flow charts spanning 25 years, banker's boxes organized by violation type and dollar amount stolen. The smell of fresh printer ink mixed with determination as evidence packets multiplied like rabbits. But I couldn't take down Patricia's empire alone. Time to build a coalition of the willing and the pissed off. Mrs. Monroe hosted our first community improvement meeting. Tuesday evening, Ring doorbell cameras mysteriously offline for privacy. The core team assembled in her living room. Myself, Monroe, technology expert, Mr. Kowalski, financial forensics. Sarah Martinez, Officer Martinez's sister and recently divorced paralegal with serious grudges against corrupt authority. We're calling this Operation Clean Sweep, Sarah announced, spreading legal documents across Monroe's coffee table. Patricia's made enemies everywhere, but fear kept people silent. Time to weaponize that resentment. The strategy was elegant in its multi-pronged approach. Legal track: Kowalski prepared federal tax fraud complaints using his IRS expertise. Sarah contacted county prosecutors about criminal referrals. Mrs. Monroe documented Patricia's social media retaliation campaign as evidence of witness intimidation, and I filed ethics complaints against Patricia's lawyer cousin with the state bar. Financial track: Sarah's ex-husband, forensic accountant still bitter about their divorce, agreed to review Patricia's books pro bono in exchange for potential whistleblower recovery percentages. Bank subpoenas were prepared for all Thornfield family accounts. Insurance fraud investigations launched for repairs that never happened. Media track: local newspaper's investigative reporter received exclusive access to our evidence cache. Channel 7's consumer advocacy show was contacted about featuring our HOA horror story. Social media campaign prepared to coincide with county hearings. But the most satisfying element was psychological warfare designed to make Patricia destroy herself. We installed additional security cameras throughout my property with audio recording, completely legal in our one-party consent state. Motion sensors triggered recording when anyone approached the fence area. Hidden GPS tracker got attached to Bryce's BMW during one of his late-night vandalism runs. Legally questionable, but practically effective. Mrs. Monroe's Ring network created neighborhood-wide surveillance, capturing Patricia's every public move. I learned basic digital forensics to recover Patricia's deleted social media posts. Phone recording app installed for any future bribery attempts. The sweet smell of suburban autumn mixed with the taste of incoming justice as our network expanded. Sarah discovered Patricia's pattern of targeting divorced residents, single mothers, elderly people on fixed incomes, anyone vulnerable to financial pressure. Predators always pick the weakest prey, Kowalski observed, reviewing complaint files dating back 15 years. But Patricia got greedy and started targeting someone who fights back. We planted false information to test Patricia's intelligence sources. I submitted obviously compliant fence repair plans, waited to see if Patricia would manufacture new violations, used reverse psychology by appearing defeated while building the case that would destroy her. The pressure campaign launched simultaneously across multiple fronts. Anonymous tips flooded county offices about HOA financial irregularities. State Attorney General received concerned citizen whistleblower packets with evidence samples. Local news got leaked documents about missing reserve funds. But the masterstroke was strategic timing coordination. County hearings scheduled 6 weeks out gave us perfect timeline to orchestrate Patricia's downfall. Evidence packages delivered to authorities in waves, maintaining constant pressure. Media investigation timed to break 1 week before hearing. Neighbor testimony coordinated to avoid witness intimidation. Contingency plans covered every possible Patricia response. Evidence destruction triggered criminal obstruction charges. Flight attempts met asset seizure orders. Retaliation faced restraining orders and harassment prosecutions. Settlement offers got rejected because criminal charges can't be bargained away. The bait was irresistible. I appeared to capitulate, offering a $2,000 settlement meeting at Patricia's house. All participants would be wired for recording, giving Patricia perfect opportunity to confess her fraudulent scheme on tape while demanding more money. Sarah's legal expertise proved invaluable during evidence preparation. Federal prosecutors love cases with clean documentation and cooperating witnesses, she explained while organizing our master files. Patricia's about to give us both. The crunch of autumn leaves under our feet during evening strategy walks, the scratch of pens documenting decades of theft, the metallic taste of anticipation building toward Patricia's inevitable downfall. Mrs. Monroe revealed unexpected espionage talents. "Retirement is boring," she laughed. "This is more exciting than Netflix." Kowalski admitted he was having more fun than during his actual IRS career. 30 years investigating financial crimes, but this case has everything: corruption, family conspiracy, witness intimidation, tax evasion. It's like a prosecutor's Christmas wish list. The final preparation phase felt like loading bullets into a legal gun. All evidence compiled into prosecutable format, witnesses prepared and coached without scripting, media contacts primed for coordinated release. Patricia remained completely unaware that 25 years of criminal activity was about to explode in her face like a suburban improvised device. Time to light the fuse and watch her empire burn. Patricia's panic started showing when county investigators called requesting financial records. Her emergency board meeting that Tuesday reeked of desperation. Literally, the conference room smelled like stress sweat mixed with her usually perfect perfume application gone wrong. She tried to retroactively correct financial discrepancies by having the board vote to transfer remaining HOA funds to an offshore emergency maintenance reserve. The sound of her acrylic nails tap dancing frantically across legal documents while she pressured board members to sign false affidavits about her financial management. But Derek's management company conveniently suffered a catastrophic computer system failure that same week. 25 years of digital financial records mysteriously corrupted beyond recovery. Backup servers also malfunctioned in what Derek claimed was an unprecedented technology disaster. The bitter taste of watching criminals cover their tracks mixed with my morning coffee as I documented each obstruction attempt. Patricia was gift-wrapping additional federal charges with every desperate move. Then the sabotage escalated to physical intimidation. Bryce got caught red-handed tampering with my security cameras during routine HOA maintenance, except no maintenance was scheduled. My water got shut off illegally while Patricia claimed unpaid utility violations that didn't exist. Fresh poison ivy appeared along my property line exactly where fence repairs were needed. But Patricia's information warfare revealed the scope of her criminal network. Fake social media accounts attacking my reputation, anonymous flyers claiming I had a criminal history, neighbors pressured to sign petitions demanding my removal from the community. Local contractor blacklist circulated to prevent fence repair services. Patricia's reach extended deeper into municipal systems than I'd imagined. She'd been corrupting vendors, contractors, even utility companies for decades. The real breakthrough came when Bryce's drunk driving habits finally caught up with him. Third DUI incident, this time plowing into a neighbor's parked car while texting. Patricia immediately offered cash settlements to avoid police reports, but the victim refused and called 911 anyway. Officer Martinez had no choice but arrest Bryce. 3 strikes meant felony charges and mandatory jail time. The metallic clank of handcuffs closing around Bryce's wrists was music to my ears, audible from 3 houses away. Patricia's screaming at responding officers could probably be heard in the next county, but Patricia's desperation reached peak stupidity when her husband approached me at the grocery store with a business proposition. "Garrett, let's be reasonable men about this," he said, glancing around nervously. "10,000 cash to forget this whole fence nonsense. County investigation is just routine paperwork. It'll disappear like morning fog. The fluorescent supermarket lights hummed overhead while I recorded every word on my phone. Patricia's family was now attempting felony bribery in broad daylight, creating perfect evidence for federal prosecutors. Meanwhile, Patricia was liquidating personal assets faster than a Vegas gambling addict. Investment accounts totaling $400,000 suddenly emptied. HOA management transferred to yet another relative's temporary emergency company. Homestead exemptions filed to protect her mansion from potential seizure. But Mrs. Monroe's courthouse connections revealed Patricia had hired private investigators to follow me, photograph my daily routine, and dig up blackmail material on anyone supporting my cause. County prosecutor warned about potential witness intimidation charges. The anonymous blog appeared next. The truth about Garrett Holloway. Claimed I was mentally unstable after my divorce. Alleged property disputes at previous addresses. Included doctored photos suggesting alcohol problems. Mr. Kowalski's tech expertise traced the blog to IP addresses at Patricia's office. Metadata analysis confirmed photo manipulation. Every digital attack created additional evidence of systematic witness intimidation. But Bryce's arrest triggered the domino effect Patricia couldn't control. His court hearing for 3 pending DUI charges got assigned to a new judge after Patricia's golf buddy recused himself. Apparently, criminal corruption investigations make social relationships uncomfortable. New judge set bail at $50,000, impounded the BMW as repeat offender evidence. House arrest with ankle monitoring meant Precious Bryce was legally grounded like the overgrown child he'd always been. Patricia's rage boiled over during a screaming match with her husband in their driveway, audible to neighbors 3 streets away. Multiple Ring doorbell systems captured her throwing landscaping rocks at my property, missing entirely and denting her own Escalade. She called police claiming I was stalking her family, which gave Officer Martinez the opportunity to explain that fighting corruption isn't stalking, it's civic duty. The leak came from inside Patricia's circle, probably Derek's bitter ex-wife who knew about money laundering operations. Documents showing systematic theft dating back 15 years landed on the newspaper reporter's desk with perfect timing. When the reporter called Patricia for comment, she hung up immediately, then called back screaming threats about lawsuits, all recorded on the paper's caller ID system. The smell of desperation was getting stronger than Patricia's expensive perfume. Every move she made created additional criminal charges: obstruction, bribery, witness intimidation, evidence tampering. Her perfect crime was becoming her perfect downfall, one felony at a time. Patricia's final Hail Mary was calling an emergency HOA meeting to dissolve the board and start fresh with new leadership. Her agenda claimed she was the victim of a coordinated harassment campaign by disturbed residents, proposing to sell all HOA assets and distribute proceeds to homeowners. Translation: liquidate evidence and flee with whatever money remained. The moving company estimates scattered across her kitchen counter told the real story. Patricia was planning an extended European vacation that looked suspiciously permanent. Real estate agent photographed her mansion for potential future listing. Husband's job transfer to the company's overseas division was suddenly expedited. But while Patricia was planning her escape, federal investigators were building her cage. The witness intimidation escalated beyond legal boundaries. Mr. Kowalski's tires got slashed, windows broken by mysterious vandals who somehow avoided every security camera. Mrs. Monroe received threatening phone calls at 3 a.m. from voices disguised by electronic modulators. Sarah Martinez faced pressure from the police chief to stay out of civilian matters, despite being a private citizen. Anonymous letters warned neighbors about serious consequences for supporting false accusations against respected community leaders. The acrid smell of fear mixed with autumn air as Patricia's intimidation campaign reached desperate levels. But every threat was documented, recorded, and forwarded to county prosecutors building federal cases. Meanwhile, the media breakthrough shattered Patricia's carefully constructed image. Front-page newspaper expose: HOA president embezzles millions from neighbors. Television news picked up the story, requesting interviews with victims across multiple decades. Social media exploded with hashtag HOA corruption hashtags as Patricia's crimes went viral. National attention brought additional victims forward from her early years as board member, revealing patterns of theft and intimidation spanning her entire adult life. But Patricia's public meltdown provided the most damaging evidence yet. Doorstep interview with Channel 7's consumer advocate went spectacularly wrong. Patricia simultaneously denied everything while admitting to minor bookkeeping discrepancies, claimed I was mentally disturbed and threatening her innocent family, while displaying the exact entitled behavior that had terrorized neighbors for decades. The video went viral as a textbook example of guilty behavior. Patricia's arrogance and panic perfectly captured for millions of viewers. Comment sections filled with similar HOA horror stories from across the country. Then federal charges dropped like bombs. District attorney filed formal criminal complaints: embezzlement, conspiracy, witness tampering, tax fraud. FBI executed search warrants on Patricia's home, office, and all family business locations. Asset seizure orders froze every Thornfield account pending investigation. Bryce got arrested as an accomplice for destroying evidence and intimidating witnesses. His ankle monitor hadn't prevented him from driving to a storage facility where he dumped boxes of financial records. The crisp sound of handcuffs closing around Patricia's wrists echoed across our quiet neighborhood as federal agents led her away from the mansion bought with stolen community funds. Community uprising followed immediately. Emergency town hall meeting packed with over 300 angry residents, many driving from other neighborhoods after hearing Patricia's story. Additional victims stepped forward with decades of similar harassment, revealing Patricia's crimes affected multiple communities. Mayor promised full investigation of municipal corruption. Police chief announced review of all HOA-related incident reports. County commissioners pledged systemic reforms preventing future abuse. But Patricia's support system collapsed faster than her criminal enterprise. Husband filed for divorce within hours of her arrest, claiming complete ignorance of illegal activities. Derek cooperated with prosecutors for reduced sentences, providing evidence of family conspiracy spanning decades. Board members resigned en masse, disavowing Patricia's leadership. Country Club revoked her membership due to moral turpitude clauses. Bank accounts frozen meant no bail money available. Even Patricia's lawyer cousin withdrew from representation, citing irreconcilable differences. The final trap sprung during Patricia's last desperate bribery attempt. $100,000 cash offered to withdraw all complaints and move somewhere else. Meeting at her mansion was recorded by FBI surveillance teams already monitoring her communications. Prosecutors added additional charges: bribery, obstruction of justice, continuing criminal enterprise. Bail set at $500,000 due to flight risk assessment. Patricia's passport confiscated, international travel banned pending trial. But the evidence avalanche was just beginning. FBI forensic accountants reconstructed 25 years of financial records using banking data, revealing systematic theft totaling $12.3 million, including interest and penalties. Every fraudulent transaction traced back to Patricia's direct authorization. RICO charges were considered due to family conspiracy elements involving multiple businesses and jurisdictions. Federal prosecutors described the case as one of the most comprehensive HOA corruption schemes in state history. Bryce's cooperation provided the final nails in Patricia's coffin. Recordings of her bragging about stupid neighbors who pay for everything, detailed descriptions of intimidation tactics, evidence of planned asset liquidation and flight. The taste of justice was metallic and satisfying as Patricia's entire empire crumbled within weeks. 25 years of building her perfect crime undone by greed, arrogance, and the assumption that victims stay victims forever. Federal trial scheduled for next spring, with Patricia facing potentially decades in prison and complete financial forfeiture of everything stolen from the community she'd terrorized. The county courthouse looked like a media circus when Patricia's hearing day arrived. News vans lined the street, satellite dishes pointed skyward like metallic flowers reaching for justice. Standing room only crowd packed the gallery, protesters holding signs reading HOA Accountability Now and Justice for Willowbrook. Patricia arrived in Orange County Jail jumpsuit, hands shackled, her usual perfect appearance replaced by the hollow-eyed look of someone whose world had completely collapsed. Bryce sat with the prosecution team, unable to meet his mother's furious glare. The smell of anticipation mixed with courthouse disinfectant as I took the witness stand with my banker's box full of evidence. PowerPoint presentation loaded on courtroom screens, ready to display 25 years of systematic theft in living color. Your Honor, I began. What started as a simple fence dispute revealed the largest municipal corruption case in county history. Each slide showed another $1 million stolen, another fabricated contract, another family member enriched by community funds. Gasps echoed through the gallery as theft totals accumulated on screen. $3.2 million to husband's construction company, $2.1 million in management fees to brother-in-law Derek, even Patricia's daughter's college education funded by fraudulent scholarships. Patricia's lawyer objected repeatedly, overruled every time as evidence piled higher than her legal defense could handle. Then came the mic drop moment that would define Patricia's legacy forever. Audio recording played through courthouse speakers. Crystal clear sound of Patricia's bribery attempt. Just take the $100,000 and shut up about the books. Move somewhere else. Start over. Nobody has to know about any of this community fund nonsense. Her voice filled the courtroom like a confession broadcast to the world. Patricia tried to claim the recording was fabricated, but FBI technical experts testified about authentication procedures and digital analysis proving its legitimacy. The courtroom erupted as audience members cheered, judge calling for order while Patricia screamed at her lawyer about incompetent representation. Witness testimonies painted 25 years of suburban tyranny in vivid detail. Mrs. Monroe described decades of intimidation and illegal fines targeting elderly residents on fixed incomes. Mr. Kowalski presented forensic accounting evidence with prosecutorial precision, showing money trails from HOA accounts to Thornfield family luxury purchases. Sarah Martinez read victim impact statements from 17 additional residents, each story revealing patterns of targeting vulnerable families, manufacturing violations, and demanding payments for fabricated community improvements. The physical evidence told its own story. FBI forensic accountants projected bank statements on courtroom screens showing timeline of luxury purchases corresponding exactly with major HOA fund disappearances. Patricia's family vacations to Europe, funded by emergency repair money. Kitchen renovations coinciding with community reserve fund transfers. Even Precious Bryce's BMW purchased with scholarship money meant for other families' children. When Patricia took the stand against her lawyer's frantic advice, the courtroom became a masterclass in self-destruction. She blamed Derek for financial mismanagement while simultaneously claiming residents owed the money anyway for property improvements they never requested. Contradicted herself multiple times under cross-examination, revealing the entitled mindset that had justified decades of theft. "These people should be grateful," Patricia declared. "I maintained their property values through proper community management." The judge's expression grew darker with each entitled pronouncement. County prosecutors' follow-up questions exposed additional crimes Patricia hadn't been charged with yet, creating potential grounds for additional indictments. Media coverage was brutal and immediate. Live television broadcast captured Patricia's meltdown. Social media live streams from courthouse steps went viral instantly. #Justice for Garrett trending nationally as courthouse crowds celebrated outside. The judge's ruling was swift and decisive. "This case represents the worst abuse of community trust I've witnessed in 20 years on the bench. Mrs. Thornfield systematically looted funds meant to maintain and improve the very community she was elected to serve. Immediate HOA dissolution and county oversight mandated. Full restitution ordered for all victims. Estimated total recovery of $15.2 million, including interest and penalties. Maximum federal sentences recommended for all defendants." But the real climax came as Patricia was led away in shackles. She turned toward me one final time, screaming, "You destroyed everything. You have no idea what you've done to this community." My response echoed through the courthouse. "No, Patricia. You did that when you decided to steal from your neighbors for 25 years. Thunderous applause erupted from gallery, bailiffs struggling to restore order as Patricia's final tantrum played out for news cameras. Officer Martinez publicly apologized for his initial report bias. Police chief announced new protocols for HOA-related complaints. FBI special agent commended community cooperation in corruption investigation. The courthouse steps became an impromptu victory celebration. Neighbors hugged, thanked me for saving the neighborhood, shared their own Patricia horror stories with gathered reporters. Children held homemade signs reading, "Heroes fix more than fences," while news helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting the triumph of ordinary residents over suburban corruption. Fresh autumn air tasted like freedom mixed with vindication as I stood surrounded by neighbors who'd found their voices after decades of intimidation. Justice had arrived in Willowbrook Heights, and it was beautiful. 6 months later, I'm sitting on my back patio with morning coffee, listening to sounds I'd forgotten existed. Children laughing instead of parents whispering about violation notices, Lawnmowers running without fear of grass height citations, neighbors actually talking to each other across fence lines. Patricia got 18 years in federal prison plus $23.4 million in restitution orders. Bryce received 2 years probation and 500 hours community service cleaning the very neighborhood parks his family had stolen from. Derek cooperated fully and got 5 years with possibility of parole in 3. But the real victory was watching our community heal. New HOA board elected unanimously with me as interim president, a job I definitely didn't want but couldn't refuse after neighbors insisted. Monthly fees dropped from $89 to $45 with complete financial transparency. Every meeting live streamed, full financial reports published monthly on our website. We instituted Patricia Thornfield Memorial Accountability Rules, ensuring no single person could ever control community decisions again. Every contract requires 3 board approvals, all expenses over $500 need resident notification, annual independent audits are mandatory with results public. Property values in Willowbrook Heights rose 23% after national media attention brought positive recognition for our corruption fight. Good Morning America featured our story in a segment about fighting municipal fraud. Book deal signed for The Fence That Broke the HOA, One Man's Fight Against Suburban Tyranny. My rebuilt fence became an unofficial neighborhood landmark. Tourists actually stopped to take photos with the fence that brought down a crime empire. I painted it red, white, and blue last 4th of July, seemed appropriate after everything we'd been through. The ripple effects extended far beyond our subdivision. 47 additional HOA corruption investigations launched nationwide after publicity from Patricia's case. Federal legislation introduced requiring independent audits for all homeowners associations annually. Willowbrook's standard became legal precedent for HOA prosecution. My testimony used in congressional hearings about municipal reform. FBI created training modules based on investigation techniques our community used. But the real satisfaction came from watching neighbors discover their own power. Mrs. Monroe was elected to city council, running on a transparency platform. Mr. Kowalski established the Community Integrity Foundation, using his restitution money to help other corruption victims nationwide. Sarah Martinez opened her own legal practice specializing in HOA abuse cases. We created the Garrett Holloway Community Integrity Scholarship for local students studying law, accounting, or public administration. Annual Fence Day celebration raises money for Habitat for Humanity, bringing together residents who'd never spoken during Patricia's reign of fear. The community garden planted where Patricia's foreclosed mansion once stood has become our neighborhood's crown jewel. Children play where her circular driveway used to intimidate visitors. Elderly residents tend vegetables where she used to plot financial schemes. Officer Martinez got promoted to sergeant after exposing corruption connections throughout local law enforcement. Police protocols now require body cameras for all HOA-related calls, preventing future intimidation attempts. My personal healing surprised me most. Confidence restored after successfully fighting impossible odds, I discovered talents I'd never known existed. Local contractor offered me permanent position leading Integrity Construction Division for municipal projects. Ex-wife called to congratulate me, admitting she'd been wrong about my potential for making a difference. We're not getting back together, but forgiveness felt better than anger. The taste of morning coffee mixed with satisfaction as I read emails from HOA victims across the country seeking advice. #FenceJustice became a rallying cry for fighting suburban corruption. Patricia's mugshot a meme template for entitled behavior consequences. But the sweetest victory was simple. Neighbors who wave when they see me, children who play in streets without fear, elderly residents who garden without worrying about violation notices. Patricia thought she'd built an untouchable empire through fear and financial pressure. Instead, she taught an entire community that ordinary people have extraordinary power when they refuse to stay victims. My phone buzzed with another message from an HOA victim in Texas, asking for help fighting their own suburban dictator. The movement Patricia accidentally started was spreading nationwide. Sometimes David doesn't just beat Goliath, he inspires other Davids to pick up their own stones.
Garrett Holloway fight wasn't just about that fence. It was about the moment an ordinary electrician decided to stop being a victim and start being a detective. See, Patricia Thornfield had a system, terrorize newcomers, target the vulnerable, make resistance feel impossible. She stole $8.5 million over 25 years because nobody ever fought back hard enough to expose her. But Patricia made one fatal mistake. She picked on someone who understood that documentation beats intimidation every single time. Garrett didn't just get mad. He got methodical. Courthouse records, financial audits, witness testimonies. The result? Patricia got 18 years in federal prison. Bryce got probation, cleaning the parks his family stole from. The community recovered millions in stolen funds, and property values rose 23% after the corruption ended. But here's what really matters. Neighbors who've been afraid to speak for decades suddenly found their voices. Mrs. Chance got elected to city council, and the entire subdivision transformed from fear to freedom. Your HOA might be running the same playbook Patricia used: manufacture violence, intimidation tactics, financial pressure on anyone who asks questions. So what's your story? Drop your HOA nightmare below. Expose these suburban dictators. Hit subscribe if you are ready to turn your anger into action. Because remember what Garrett proved. Sometimes fighting over an $800 fence saved millions for everyone else.